All right, 6 weeks away. We are once again back in Salt Lake City for Fierce Fighting Championship 38 on Friday night. Blake Arulian alongside ZACK Partridge. And ZACK, another good one in front of us. 3 titles, as well as 5 title challengers in the past on this card as well. Absolutely stacked.
Yeah, I mean, we built this card to to be a big one. We build them all in hopes of it, and the way that they shape up. Uh, some deliver, some with dropouts and things like that. And we've had our fair share of change ups and things like that. But the core of this card was able to stay together, and happy to say that I think Friday night is going to deliver on what everybody is hoping for.
Lots of people looking forward to it. And obviously, we're going to kick things off with a big one at heavyweight. Abdul Wahab Hajiev versus Braden Peterson. Already got the pronunciation correct on that. Going to be working on it throughout the entire week. Debuter versus someone who's 1-0. However, Braden Peterson does have a little bit more under the table as well in terms of experience in MMA.
Yeah, he does, but so does Abdul. Abdul, we'll go with Abdul. So does Abdul. In Chechnya, he has a whole bunch of smoker fights. Not really sure what that means, but I will say this with Abdul. I do know that he trains at Agima. I do know that he gets in rounds with Kent and people like Alden Ashcraft, and I do know that he does not back down from anybody. So, pretty nice guy. Got to meet him at the R&R barbecue fundraiser for the Team Agima side of things. Really enjoyed, talking with him and getting to know him a little bit. But also, no nonsense guy. He's there to, get down to business. While Braden, I kind of, I have a lot of respect for Braden and what he's trying to do. Kind of similar to me. This is just a hobby. He's not here for a long time, just here for a good one. And, he was anxious to get in the fierce cage. Happy, happy we could get him an opponent. And he's looking to make waves and put himself into the amateur title picture really quick.
He has bouts listed out until I believe May with other promotions and things. He's trying to stay as busy as he possibly can. Going to be a good one to kick things off at heavyweight. All right, we move way down to lightweight at 155 pounds. Calvin Taylor versus Isaiah Randall. Calvin Taylor coming off of a relatively long layoff, 11 months away from the MMA rule set. As for Isaiah Randall, a fighter coming out of Uprising MMA, 2 of which are on this card.
Yeah, so I mean Isaiah Randall coming up in weight, generally a featherweight, but has some more experience in the jiu-jitsu world, doing a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions like that. Where Calvin, he's an athlete and very strong wrestler, very strong, explosive athlete. One thing that pretty impressed with Calvin is, we train in the same room, is watching his development. Is he has gone from just an explosive athlete to starting to develop some techniques and things like that, so that he doesn't have to always rely on that athleticism. I think in his fight at UVU last year, one of the things that happened where, and we'll talk about his opponent later, what happened was his opponent was able to deal with his onslaught and his athleticism. He hits hard, he moves well. But when that athleticism started going down, as he started getting a little bit tired as the fight went on, there were some holes that needed to be filled. Super proud of the camp that Calvin's put in to fill those holes. He's grown leaps and bounds in some of the areas that kind of bit him in the butt in his last fight, if you will. Now we'll see if he can keep that composure in the cage. And Isaiah, big ups to Isaiah coming up. Watching him, he gets in work with a lot of high-level guys. Billy Elikana, who just signed to the UFC, I saw. They have a close relationship, so I'm pretty excited for that one at lightweight.
It's kind of my sleeper pick of the entire prelims. Toa Meredith, Tayson Royer. This one was made just about 4 weeks ago, a couple days prior to your fight. While you're cutting weight, you're still making matches happen. Toa Meredith coming up from St. George. As for Tayson Royer, his 3rd walk since September.
So Tayson, right, was a guy that we didn't know a lot about, but the first time he stepped in the cage, he had this kind of presence about him. And the way he carries himself, a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger, a lot of fun, win or lose. I thought he definitely had moments in both, his debut was basically flawless, but, tested himself against the Nate Ayers and they put on a really good scrap. Toa Meredith is one of those guys. The first time we saw him was my first fight at Crown. And I think you texted me when I was in the back still warming up and said, we've got to get Toa Meredith on a Fierce card. He's a ton of fun. And when Toa's fight fell out and we were seeing if he could come up and be on this card with his teammate and cousin, um, I was kind of looking for somebody that could maybe kind of match his energy. And I thought Tayson was the perfect dance partner with the swagger that these two bring into the cage. I think you're absolutely right. This is sneaky pick for fight of the night for me on the early prelims.
I can confirm. I don't think I've ever done that before, but while you were prepping, I literally said, I'm just sending you this. You don't need to respond right now, but whenever the dust settles on this fight tonight, we got to get Toa Meredith on a Fierce card. About a year and a half later, we get that to come to fruition. All right, we move to 135 pounds. Aiden Egler, Tristan Parks. Aiden Egler coming off of that 14-second KO back in September.
Yeah, I mean, Aiden coming off two solid wins. Tristan, he's 1-0 coming off of a win off Crown last August, I believe. So two guys that, Southern Utah and Las Vegas is familiar with Tristan. Northern Utah familiar with Aiden. I think they're two pretty strong grapplers. I think they're two. I think that you're going to see a battle of wills in this one. Very exciting. Aiden is just a part of that group of flyweight, bantamweight, that area of those guys. They have a ton of them in there that are all kind of all rising up together right now. Very interested to see how this one plays out.
All right, we stay at bantamweight between a couple that we have seen in recent months. Nate Reinhardt, ZACK Spreitzer. This one was supposed to happen last month. We get it here in February.
Yeah, super unfortunate. Nate got sick and he wanted to go, but just couldn't. Sometimes things happen. Happy we get this one rescheduled. Thankful for ZACK for working with us and making the trip down. The big thing, I was trying to catch him before he drove all the way down from Montana. He's got a long drive down. He'll be making that drive again. And really interesting. We have a vacant flyweight because of David Kim, but that means we also have a vacant bantamweight title. I know Nate wants to get himself back in that picture with the win. ZACK, very interesting. Probably his last fight, he went from 45. Now he's down to 35. He's walking pretty light. Win or lose, his plan is to go to 25 after this. So with a win here, he puts himself right in that mix of that 25 flyweight title mix. So really interesting, really fun fight. I'm interested to see, ZACK went up in weight class with his first fight with us against Michael Izalde, seemed to handle the size difference pretty well. Nate's a big bantamweight too, so interested to see the size difference there and what that looks like in those grappling exchanges. We were talking about it too. I think people, Nate's had some. It's been a minute since we've seen him. Forget how good of a striker Nate is too, with that boxing background. So very interested in this fight and this matchup.
All right, we move to a clash at strawweight. Casey Pierce alongside Hannah Silva at this one. Excited to see Hannah Silva back. Haven't seen her since March of last year. As for Casey Pierce, her fierce debut.
Two very strong female grapplers. It's kind of they're ones that they've both been around long enough. It's kind of interesting to me that their paths haven't crossed yet. So this fight was one of those that just made too much sense. I know Hannah really wants to get her belt back. A win here would definitely put her right in contention that when that strawweight title comes back that she'd be half of that. But Casey Pierce, she's right there as well. Seeing her get back active, I think activity matters. I know she's a very well-respected, tough competitor, and I think it's a matchup that I think a contender for our belt is going to come out of this as a winner.
Speaking a little bit about title contention, this is Talon Carvalho's first fight not for a title since November of 2023. He has been on a very busy schedule through 2024, now kicking off 2025 opposite Thomas Linton.
Both of them coming off title fight losses. Thomas Linton took a shot at another promotion's welterweight title, a lot smaller, facing a black belt. You don't see too many black belt amateurs. Tough for him, but Talon, one thing I will say about this, I'd like to applaud Talon's support and fan system, because one thing I notice as a promoter and matchmaker as we put on these shows, when these fighters are on the rise, when they lose fights, and especially big fights, we've seen this as a trend. Their ticket sales usually dip pretty bad after, unfortunately, and they lose some of that support, which, that's one of the struggles of the fighters is feeling like you have your support behind you and stuff, and then you lose a tough fight, which I mean his fight was incredible. Said it over and over with Logan Taylor. A ref easily could have stepped in there and he could have retained his title. Dog fight, had no quit in him, showed a lot, grew a lot, had a great attitude about it. Um, I, shout out to Talon and his supporters for coming out and supporting him. I think he sold more tickets than he did for his title defense fight. So I think that that's really cool. I love to see that. And, Talon is, I think he's just a bright spot in Utah MMA. So, really happy for him that his support still come to put on a show. But, Thomas Linton, he's coming to insert himself into that title mix as well. At lightweight amateur here in Utah.
All right, 7 fights up, 5 still to go. 3 of them for titles, the first of which will be contested at 125 pounds. The amateur flyweight title will be vacated as that first punch is thrown between Dante Morales and 29-day turnaround for Tyler Polillo.
Yeah, I mean, Dante and Tyler he is coming off of a loss, but he's coming off of a loss in his own right up in Idaho against a stud from MMA Lab, right? He's done, he wants to stay active and as busy as possible, and he's one of those guys that he's doing whatever he can to keep himself relevant and active. I really like that. Coming out from Hawaii to fight Dante, who, Dante's been chomping at the bit, and again, he's in that group with Aiden that I talked about. They have the flyweight team, but they also have, some of those other grapplers as well. Aiden, Nico, Braswell, 35-45 combo guy. All those guys. And we saw some pretty impressive and performances by Dante, but, truth be told, he hasn't really built anybody established with a record or experience yet either. So I think this is a great test for both of them. Great test for Dante, and it's exactly what we're looking for as we're crowning a new amateur flyweight champion here in Utah.
Another new champion waiting to be crowned is going to be the vacant welterweight title between Christian Reese and Do Som Leon. You talked a little bit about Calvin Taylor and a previous opponent he had. He's up for a belt alongside the top welterweight in the state of Utah.
Yeah, I mean, so Christian isn't necessarily the easiest guy to match. There's only one other guy around that I could get to say yes to him, and unfortunately, because of coaching conflicts and wrestling schedules and stuff, that fight couldn't happen on this card or previously when he was scheduled either. And as I was looking and I was getting no after no after no after no, I finally was like, you know what? I think I know who will say yes to that guy, and that is Do Som Leon, who while only 2-2, his only losses come to a decision from Lane Dalton, who will be fighting in a number 1 contender fight up in Idaho. It's already scheduled with Alan Aragon, right? And we know how tough Lane is. We've seen him, and that guy, he's as tough as they come. And then Eric Beck, who's the stud out of Syndicate, that D1 wrestler, training his whole life. I mean, good kickboxing, Eric Beck is an absolute blue chip prospect out of Syndicate. Dosom took him to a decision as well. So, he's fighting the best of the best, the toughest of the toughest, and make no mistake about it. That's, Christian is right up there in comparison with the guys that he's been putting himself against. So I love fighters like Do Som Leon who just say yes to anybody in the challenge, not worried about protecting his record and hopefully coming up and picking up a belt. But, Christian, you had your sit down interview with him. I think everybody that knows Christian knows how special of a kid he is. I think he's a special fighter, but he's a really special young man as well. And he's going to have a ton of fans. I believe as of right now, the leader in the ticket category. So I think he'll have the biggest crowd there as of right now. So really excited to see Christian in the Fierce Cage competing for our title, and can't wait to see that one unfold.
All right, Jenna Williams, Tyler Schaefer, the first of 3 professional fights on this card. Jenna Williams, her first time back in Utah since March of 2021. As for Schaefer, her first walk in almost a year.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a fight that we targeted as I get a lot of people that are asking for women's MMA and women to be on the card. And I've heard the female fighters, and I've heard a lot of female influence in the community talk about, if you put on female fights, it gets more girls interested up and signed up in the gyms that we might find that they want to fight, and somebody that's been on our broadcast and on our team is Caitlin Neal. That's what got her into fighting. She went and saw it and decided this is what she wanted to do. So as one of my goals is to try and get more female fights on cards as consistently as possible. When this opportunity came to put this card on, kind of jumped on it. Jenna's been fantastic to work with, as well as, Tyler. They both have big followings and they promote themselves very well. Jenna going to make her pro debut. So I think, I think that this is going to be one that I hope that the Utah fans really enjoy, as we also try and grow into our other markets and our fan bases in Arizona and California, where these girls are from.
How about this fan favorite at 160 pounds, a catchweight bout between Syndicate's Daniel Keepers and One Hit MMA's Amin Garcia, who returns, still looking for that first professional win after one of the best fights Fierce has ever seen in September.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with fighting somebody like Amin, I give a big shout out to Daniel Keepers taking this fight, and he's going to come in. We saw Daniel when we went to Tough Enough and watched Jerome Hatch fight, and we we were in attendance at that card. Daniel Keepers was on that card and got a win, and for his frame, 6'2", southpaw, big long striker, very skilled and composed. Been doing this a long time. His first fight goes all the way back to 2016. New father, little motivation behind it. I like Daniel Keepers, and he caught my eye as somebody that I think, would be a fun dance partner for somebody to come up and have him fight at Fierce. And it just turned out timing worked out for Amin Garcia, who, his pro debut, I thought it was one of the best pro debut performances we've ever seen, and it came away as a draw. I think he said it on the podcast. He took that as his amateur. He lost his amateur debut. He didn't win this one, but he didn't lose either. But I think he kind of took it like a loss and kind of has figured out where he needs to learn and grow from it. So watch out, because if he goes on any type of run like he did as an amateur, buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. But I think this is going to, this really bummed to lose our other co-main event, but this one is not going to lack excitement. That I can promise you.
All right, we move to the final fight of this February card. Mike Jones alongside John Poppy. John Poppy coming off of that statement win last November, the first show ever at the Masonic Temple. As for Mike Jones, obviously the pound for pound number 1 fighter in the state of Utah at Fierce Fighting Championship. He's won 4 in a row and now looks to defend his title for the second time. The implications and the ramifications of this fight are huge. John Poppy comes in, gets the big win. Remember, they were originally scheduled for the Maverick Center last August, and John had that unfortunate foot break, got healthy. We asked if we had something sooner, and that's how the Cole Schaefer came about. Got a big win over Cole. When Cole was really building a lot of momentum and blazing a path, and John came in, threw some wrinkles in his game that he hadn't shown before, got a big win, and then immediately called out Mike on the mic after. And Mike is a competitor. Like, that's one thing I do love about Mike. He is, homeboy from Price, Utah, and he likes to get down and compete. And when somebody calls him out, he takes it a little personal, and he got a little fired up over that. And I think Mike Jones is at his best when he has that chip on his shoulder. And I would like to thank John for promoting himself well. He does like to talk a little smack. I mean, his original instigation, how this all started, is he commented on a post that he would strangle our 185 champ. I'm pretty sure he said that on an Instagram post. And so this fight needs to happen, and it's going to be really interesting. John has a lot of the accolades that, Mike feels like he should have, Dana White Contender Series appearance and things like that.
I do believe John. I think Mike Jones, without this big of a record, I think he's every bit in the situation that somebody like Chris Curtis was in a few years back, where Mike's just going to have to go around and just fight everybody at 185 to 205 and whatever. But I think he is one of the best, if not the best middleweight, unsigned middleweights in the country. I think he can hang with all of them. A lot of his losses come to UFC vets and short notice and not optimal circumstances. So make no mistake about it. I think Mike Jones is coming to make another statement against another big name from Extreme Couture. And I think John Poppy is, he feels like a win over Mike. He picks up that 4-fight winning streak that Mike just had, and he's off and running. So big fights, big implications in the regional scene, like we like to do in our main events. Big title fight. Cannot wait.
Can't get here soon enough. Fights start at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6, live from the Masonic Temple in Salt Lake City. Zach, going to be another great night. Anything else the fans need to know headed into Friday night?
Come hungry. R&R Barbecue. They'll be there catering the event. So come hungry, get some dinner. Bad Bev with drinks, of course. All ages event. All are welcome. It's going to be a good night of fights. Really excited.